This is a concept design for a rather large subdivision, and it has 3 different symbols representing some common planting in open space areas throughout the subdivision. We want to generate for this design a plant schedule, and to do that I'm going to swing to species database and generate a plant database file of species suitable for planting in these street tree areas. Well, here we are in SppDb, and I'm going to go to the Find view. Remember, we want to extract from this tool a GCP or plant database file that we can use in gCADPlus. So I'll go to Find view, and I'm looking for landscape uses, so I tick that little box. Among the various uses here we should have here street tree, and I'll say Find, and that generates from the database a list of all species that may well work as sort of street tree common area. Let's now export a plant database file that ends in a GCP, so there's one. I'll overwrite plant list, and when we've done that we'll switch from SppDb, we'll close, and we go back to our edit view, and now let's go back to gCADPlus. So we need to attach here a plant database file that we've just generated from SppDb. So we're going to say attach the GCP, and we'll go to our desktop, and here's the one we just exported, one called plant list. So that gives us a list of smallish trees that might well work in this environment. There's the coastal banks here, a bottle brush, a gladitsia and so on. Crepe myrtle can even be used as a street tree. It's just plucked out of the 250 odd references that are in the plant database SppDb and given me a little list here, because all I want in this environment are just 2 or 3 species that will work as open space planting. If I then zoom in a little on a clump, if I click here, after using gCADPlus and set data to a plant, and then right click to finish, I can set any species in that little list. And so let me just go over here and click here, and what I've done is set that one to a gladitsia. Click here, that one's been set to a crepe myrtle, and this one to a bottle brush. So I've only used 3 symbols in here, so they're all tagged. I can say gCADPlus, show us the symbols with names. All of the symbols have been set to a plant species name, which is taken from this little short list, and now it's time to generate the plant schedule. To do that, it's just gCADPlus and plant schedule, draw the standard schedule. The first thing I need to do is type in the text height and then input a corner for the schedule, and the schedule is going to be drawn counting the number of each of those species that's used in the design, and there they are. I've made my schedule a little bit too wide, I think, so I can repeat it, use the same text height, input a corner, and do something like that. That looks a little better. There's the plant, the botanical name, common name, and total. A large number of species have been used, but remember, this is just a concept plan, so this gives us a rough estimate that we're going to need roughly 250 specimens to populate that area. Box like so, and zoom in on your schedule, and then display it on the layout. So there's our floating viewport, and I can position it wherever I want. I'm going to stay just outside of the other floating viewport. There's floating viewport number 1, which is at a scale of 1000. This one here we just added is at a view scale pretty similar actually, of 1900, but it's not going to be a fixed scale. If I want that printing to be a little larger, I just double click inside that floating viewport and just make this a little tighter, and do that, and we can display that on the layout. And there's it. Whoops, now I've got both of them. Let's display them back on the layout. And now I need to get rid of that one. Oh dear. Zoom extend. Display on the layout. Double click in here gets rid of one, then zoom in here and double click inside this one, and that gets rid of that particular floating viewport. Now I'm going to select both of those and change their color to color 255 so they won't actually print. That's all done, and I can zoom extend, and there's the whole sheet with its plant schedule. Now I think I could redo that and make this plant schedule a little tighter. Well, I'm not entirely happy with the space that's in that plant schedule between the various columns. So what I'm going to do is select that floating viewport, and I'm going to make a new one. Well, here is the new floating viewport. Let's select it and we'll activate it. And what I've done, I hope you can see, I've set the magenta box here landscape format rather than as I did before, which was portrait. And now I've got my columns reasonably evenly spaced, and so now I can display that on the layout. And I'll unselect all, then I'll zoom extents without worrying about that floating viewport now. And there's our whole sheet with its scale bar, its north point, the design, and a plant schedule nicely displayed. Well, the last thing to do is to select that schedule and set its color to 255. And as soon as that's done, deselect the viewport and zoom extents, and the job's done.